Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video we have my Game Week 34 team selection and it is the biggest remaining double game week of the season, so it's absolutely critical that we get it right. If you're enjoying the content here on this channel, please do remember to like, comment and subscribe. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So, Game Week 33 didn't go particularly well for me. Feel free to drop some kind words of support in the comments down below. I would really appreciate it. Also, let me know how many points you got in Game Week 33 as well. This was an absolute disaster class in what to not do in FPL, which is panic last minute and make decisions that you probably weren't planning on making. But we live and we learn. And if you were one of the people in the deadline stream chat that told me to make this move for a -4, I hope you're happy with yourself. But in all seriousness, of course, I take complete accountability for my decisions. If you missed the deadline stream, essentially I brought in Salah and Isak for Kane and Bruno for a -4 hit. That's looking like it was a 17-point swing. Now, I think there are some decisions in FPL where if it backfires, you can count yourself very, very unlucky. For example, if you take out a player that just hasn't been playing at all well and you bring in a player with a double game week and for some reason that doesn't pay off, you can absolutely say you've been very unlucky. I wouldn't say this was unlucky for me. I think on paper it might have been a slightly silly decision to take out 2 penalty takers with an okay fixture where we expected there to be a few goals for a hit in a single game week. It probably wasn't the wisest decision. I don't think it was a 17-point swing decision, though. So I do count myself a little bit unlucky in that sense. But I will own the decision. I didn't need to take the -4. I could have just waited an extra few days to get some more information and kept Kane and Bruno. But it was a week where I really needed those points because outside of that, the rest of the team didn't do a massive amount. It was pretty much, well, Trent got a single assist and then Rashford and Haaland getting some points for me. I'm recording this immediately after the games on Thursday evening. I'm pretty sure Isak should have got something in that game. It looked like an assist to me. I think they deemed his intended target to be Wilson rather than Murphy. So they didn't give Isak the assist. If that updates, I might get a few extra points. But regardless, it's going to be a big red arrow for me. At the moment, I'm about 10k down to about 17k. And it's a big drop. Like I said, if I got those 17 points from Kane and Bruno, I would be easily inside the top 10k, and I would be absolutely laughing with 3 green arrows in a row. And there are fine margins in FPL, but it's a game like that, and I think you can't beat yourself up too much for those sort of decisions. And I think you just learn with it. You can't make good decisions every single time, and you can see these are the things that you shouldn't do. You can learn from my mistakes. So that's how the game week went. Largely loads of blanks. The other thing that was slightly frustrating before we move on is the Raya Kepa decision, because we spoke about that in depth on the deadline stream. That actually Raya makes more saves. He's slightly better for bonus. And I actually kind of fancied Brentford a little bit to do relatively well against Chelsea. And we were going back and forth between starting Kepa and Raya, but it is one of those things. So it was a week where a few wrong decisions probably has cost me like 20, 25 points. But I also have had a fair amount of luck this season as well. So I'm not going to complain too much. We are still in touching distance of the top 10k. Let's take a look at Game Week 34 and how we plan on doing that. So moving ahead to double Game Week 34, the team is in a really, really strong position. And I'm hoping to bounce back with a big green arrow, hopefully pushing me back towards the top 10k. Interesting discussion point. I'm not going to do it in a lot of detail here, but I would love to know down below in the comments, what do you think is the threshold now for a good rank in FPL? I'm not saying an exceptional rank, just one where you'd say that is a really good rank for a manager that is playing every week and is fairly engaged in the game. Because in the past, it has been top 10k. And I think at 16k right now, I should be aiming for the top 10k. But I feel like that threshold now is maybe a little bit higher to say that is what you should get as a good rank in FPL. There are too many teams and managers now, and too many engaged managers as well, with FPL content on YouTube, on Twitter, podcasts as well. I feel like getting a top 10k consistently is virtually impossible unless you are really, really good at the game, but also get a hell of a lot of luck as well, and you need both of those things. So I almost feel like a really good rank to aim for now is probably top 100k, maybe top 50k. And for some people, it might even be top 250k. But I would love to know down below what you think that threshold is for a good rank in FPL, because I think it's moved away from the top 10k now. So don't beat yourself up if you're nowhere near the top 10k. I feel like you need a hell of a lot of luck as well as a bit of skill to get to that place. But for Game Week 34, I've currently got 1 free transfer and 1.4 million in the bank. We'll start with the goalkeeper situation. This is actually a place where I could see myself using a transfer in 34, mainly because I'm happy with the outfield players. Now, the issue that I've got is if I was to make a transfer, it would have to be for a double Game Week keeper in Game Week 34. The reason I say that is Raya's got Nottingham Forest at home. There are no other single game week players, I don't think, or keepers, I should say, that have a better fixture and a better chance for a clean sheet, in my opinion. So it would have to be for a double game week keeper. I could go for De Gea, because at the moment I only have 2 Manchester United assets. But I think I would like to leave that third spot open either for this week or in the future to get one of maybe like a Bruno or a Martial or an Antony or a Sancho. I feel like there is more upside in the attack. And also the fixtures I don't really like in Game Week 34 from a defensive perspective. Villa are scoring goals for fun, and Brighton are a very good attack too. So I could see Manchester United conceding in both of those games. The other 2 options I've got are Alisson and Ederson. Alisson I actually do like because he makes saves, and Liverpool aren't great defensively. And I feel like you actually need a little bit of that for the keeper to haul. We've seen with Ederson in the past, the issue is City is so good defensively that you probably only concede 1 or 2 shots a game. So even if he keeps a clean sheet, it's only a 6-pointer. So I actually don't mind Alisson, but again, that limits me because I've got Trent and Salah. It would limit me from getting a Jota or a Darwin or a Gakpo in the future or for this week. So that's the reason that I potentially don't like Alisson, which does leave us with Ederson. And I would still argue, despite the fact that Ederson is a bit stinky in FPL, that actually he is probably still a better option than Raya for this week. So I could do like Kepa to Ederson, bench Raya, and start Ederson. But I also feel like it's a low upside transfer. I don't see myself gaining tons of points going for Ederson as opposed to just starting Raya and maybe rolling the transfer if I was really limited to only a goalkeeper transfer. So that's my only slight concern there. At the moment, I am very, very happy to start Raya this week. So we'll think about that moving towards the deadline. Do I want to make a goalkeeper transfer? The back 3 I'm absolutely delighted with. We'll start with Trent. Trent has now got, is it 4 assists in 3 games, something like that? He is just playing so well from an attacking perspective. Still a little bit shaky at the back, but he's definitely creating chances for fun. And he's actually got the best expected goal involvement of all defenders this season, post game week 17, so post World Cup, and also across the last 6 game weeks as well. So it doesn't matter what sample size you look at, Trent is by far and away the best defender in FPL for attacking threat, and he's back to his best, I think, from an attacking perspective. So very, very happy to have Trent. Luke Shaw is playing exceptionally well for Manchester United. There is a chance that he fills in at centre-back at points. He could go back into left-back as well. If he plays at centre-back, he's better for bonus points. If he plays at left-back, he's better for attacking threat. So it doesn't really matter too much. I think he's a good asset regardless. It's just that I don't overly love the fixtures just because Villa and Brighton are attacking very well. So I'm happy having him, but I don't feel like you need to break your team maybe to bring him in this week. I wouldn't be surprised to see Manchester United concede in both games. And then the third defender that I'm starting is Estepinian. I don't mind Estepinian either. Again, Brighton are actually a little bit shaky at the back at the moment. They're conceding goals, but he's got a bit of attacking threat, and I like the fact that it's 2 home fixtures. Wolves at home in particular is really good, and then that Manchester United at home fixture is just an additional bonus to potentially get a clean sheet or some attacking returns. So really happy with the defence. Unfortunately, I'm left in a position where I'm actually benching Trippier and Botman at the moment. I really don't like that, especially Trippier. I mean, Botman in the past tends to be a 6-pointer, maybe 7 or 8 with bonus. He doesn't show much attacking threat. So I don't have a huge issue benching Botman. I don't like benching Trippier. And I know Trippier's not got many points recently, and he's been super frustrating to own, just getting 1s and 2s. But we know what he can do. He is the second best defender in the league this season for expected goal involvement, only behind Trent. He has dropped off slightly in recent weeks, but he's still on corners. He's on set pieces. Great open play goal creative threat as well. So I don't ever want to, especially against Southampton at home, I don't want to bench Trippier. But as you'll see when you look at the rest of the team, there's not a lot I can do, to be honest, to start him. I'd have to start him ahead of either Isak or a double game week player, and I don't like the sound of either of those at the moment. So that's the position I'm in. That's the defence. Let's move on to the midfield. So moving on to the midfield, and for the first time in a while, I'm playing in a 3-5-2 rather than a 3-4-3, as you can see with Watkins on the bench. So I've got 5 midfielders, and I am happy with all 5 of these, but there are some additions that I would like to make and some possible changes too. We'll start with Salah. I do think there's a decent shout to captain Salah this week. Fulham don't look great at the back. They haven't been great all season at the back. They've just been really good going forward. And they've also been very, very good at Craven Cottage too. So I feel like Fulham at home for Salah's a nice fixture. And Tottenham at home is probably the fixture to target there. Tottenham just look really shaky at the back. And again, conceding chances for fun. They got battered by Newcastle. Manchester United could have scored a hatful of goals against them. So I look at that and think that's actually a really, really good double for Liverpool from an attacking perspective. I don't hate, if you're really chasing and you either don't own Haaland or you want to go slightly different, I don't mind Salah captaincy. I'm delighted to own him, but I personally probably won't be looking at anyone other than Erling Haaland. Rashford, again, another really good player. If you are looking for someone different to captain and you don't own Salah or you don't want to go for Salah and Haaland, Rashford will probably be my third choice this week. Rashford continues to look really, really good, continues to deliver points. His data's good, passes the eye test. If Manchester United are going to score goals, and I think they will against Villa and Brighton, you would expect him to be involved in them. So Salah and Rashford, absolutely delighted with. We'll go with the man in the middle as well, Jack Grealish. I'm very, very happy owning him at the moment. He's performing very well. His data continues to look really, really good in recent weeks. There's been an uptick and he's kind of maintaining that as well. So I'm perfectly happy owning him. The big thing with Grealish is that you want him to start both these games. If he starts both, then you can just cross your fingers that he gets some kind of return. But we know with Pep Roulette, especially with games in quick succession, that we don't know if he'll start both. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him benched in one. And you kind of have to accept that. You can't go for a Man City attacker and then be really, really upset if they get benched. It's part and parcel of picking one of them. So I really like Grealish this week. I'll be honest, if you've not got Salah, you've maybe not got a Rashford, or you're looking at a KDB, I'm not entirely sure that Grealish would be a priority transfer for me. The good thing about him, and why I would be looking at him, is he's quite cheap. So I feel like, yes, it is good if it allows you to also make another move, because you can't get like a KDB and a Salah into your team if you've already got Haaland and a Trent too. So that's why I like Grealish. But if you are really trying to prioritise your transfers, I'm not sure he would be my priority. That being said, I am very happy to own him. We'll talk about KDB whilst we're on the Man City midfielders. Really good data recently. Getting the attacking returns too, looking confident. Obviously, we know he's about as nailed as you can get for a Man City midfielder. I don't mind KDB at all. And if you don't think that Salah will perform well, or you want to go slightly different, or let's say you don't own Trent and you can actually get Salah, KDB and Haaland into a team, I really do like KDB for the upcoming game weeks and for the remainder of the season as well. I just can't do it because I've got Salah, Haaland, Trent, and I've also got a few expensive players around that, the likes of Grealish. I just can't squeeze KDB into my team unless I drop Salah. So for me, it's going to be a no, but I do really like it if you're in that position, if you want to go for him. Then we're then left with the two Brighton midfielders. I'll start with Matoma just because I think Matoma's excellent. He's the most nailed Brighton attacker, I think, as well. He passes the eye test. His data's still not great, but I've kind of given up saying anything about that because we know how good he is. He converts the chances. He's not got tons of points recently, but I still feel like he is probably the best Brighton midfielder to own because you know he's going to consistently get you points. That being said, Solly March has been very, very good recently, and he's actually starting to convert some of the chances and get some assists too. So I actually think that arguably March might be one of the better Brighton mids to own too. The one that I've got alongside Matoma is McAllister. It all comes down to where he's playing, and I know I sound like a broken record there. McAllister as the number 10 is, in my opinion, by some distance, the best Brighton midfielder to own. Data is perfect when he plays there, gets big chances, creates chances, and he's on penalties and some set pieces too. I think he's just an exceptionally good player, and he's really, really good in that 10 role. But at defensive midfield, I think he's a terrible asset, and I don't want to own him because his data's not very good. So it's like he's either a terrible asset or a fantastic one, and there's no in between. The difficulty is trying to predict in Game Week 34 what's going to happen. De Zerbi did come out with some comments which basically made it sound like Veltman is back and ready to start again now. I know he's been on the bench for a few games. He made it sound like he's ready to start. If Veltman starts, Gross will go back into defensive midfield, and you would imagine that means McAllister goes back into the 10 role. So I'm kind of slightly hopeful that McAllister does play the number 10 role, at least for one of the games in Game Week 34. Hopefully it's against Wolves, because that's the game we're expecting Brighton to probably win comfortably. I feel like the United game will be a little bit tighter. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. My issue with that McAllister spot is I kind of want Bruno Fernandes back, and I knew this might be the case if I take him out, and I expected that, and I spoke about that on the stream. I can get Bruno Fernandes for a -4 transfer, which we'll discuss when we look at my strikers, but I'm not going to sell Salah, Grealish, Matoma, or Rashford. Those four aren't going to be sold. So if I do want to get Bruno into this team, which I can, it has to be McAllister who makes way. So if I am predicting McAllister to start in defensive midfield in one or both of the games, maybe McAllister to Bruno as part of the -4 does make sense. My issue with that is, again, it feels like a -4, which could backfire because McAllister is on penalties, and if he does play in the 10, he's great. So I'm not going to keep repeating myself, but it is a really tricky position we're in with McAllister, in that you could take him out, he could go straight into an attacking role and punish you massively. So I'm kind of very, very 50-50 at the moment on that McAllister decision. Let me know down below what you think. Would you take him out? Would you take the risk bringing Bruno back in? Or would you just rock with this midfield and hope that he either gets a penalty or starts playing an attacking role? So only 2 forwards starting this week with Ollie Watkins on the bench. Ollie Watkins will probably actually be my 2nd sub rather than my 3rd sub, but I'm happy having on the bench this week. He is actually very, very, very good away from home. And United, like I said, aren't great defensively, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Watkins score. But I just think with Isak and Trippier and even Botman to some extent, I've got so many options to play in that final spot for my single game week player that I don't think I can justify starting Watkins. For me, I think I have to, just because of the fixture, have Isak and Trippier at the very least ahead of Watkins. So he's probably going to be on my bench, but he could also be sold to fund some of the moves that I want, which I'll discuss in a second. Erling Haaland is going to get the armband. I wouldn't be surprised to see his minutes slightly reduced in this double. I would be surprised to see him benched in one. To be honest, though, with the way he's playing, I still would argue if he's benched in one and starts the other one, he could still be the best captaincy option. So for me, unless we have confirmation or reason to really think that he's definitely going to be benched in one, I'm going to be going for Haaland myself. There is, of course, especially in a double game, the opportunity to go against him. There is absolutely that opportunity, but it's the other way as well that you also have the opportunity to be punished double the amount. And for me, as a result, it's just not a risk I want to take. I don't want to end up doubling my rank just by trying to be different. He's the best asset in my opinion, so I'll be captaining Haaland. The 11th player and the only single game week outfield player in my 11 is Isak. Now, I, of course, brought him in 33. He came off the bench, should have got an assist, but again, at the time of recording, still hasn't been given that assist. And he just played exceptionally well off the bench. The only 2 games that Isak has been benched in recently were both midweek games. So if you're looking for a pattern, it looks like midweek games will be the ones that he's benched in. Unfortunately, double game week 36 for Newcastle. Of course, one of those games is midweek 2. So it might be that in the double, unfortunately, he might be benched once again. But he seems to be their favoured starting striker, I believe, anyway. Wilson is, of course, exceptional. But I think Isak will start against Southampton. And as a result, I think at the moment, I've kind of got to favour Isak ahead of Trippier. I just feel like Southampton are so poor defensively. I really, really like the look of Isak against Southampton. I would love to know, if I do just rock with this team, or I don't change the outfield players, who would you start, Isak or Trippier? I do think it's close. But at the moment, I'm kind of favouring Isak just because I expect him to start and do well. So that's the team in its entirety. The options that I've got are as follows. The first would be to roll and just move ahead to game week 35 with the team I've got, which I think on paper looks very, very good. So the first option is to roll. The second option is to do Raya or Kepa to Ederson, which I have the money to do. I know people don't like Ederson, but remember, City's fixtures for the remainder of the season are so good. They double in 34 and they double in 37. So whilst he isn't a perfect keeper, whilst City do somehow end up conceding 1 goal quite a lot, I would argue that he is still probably a better option than both Raya and Kepa for the remainder of the season. It does use a lot of my money in the bank, which isn't ideal. But when I look ahead to future weeks, I don't necessarily need that money in the bank. So the second option is Raya or Kepa to Ederson. The third option, which is probably the one I'm considering most if I make a move this week, is getting McAllister to Bruno. The way that I would do that is McAllister to Bruno, and then I just bring Watkins all the way down to like a Sam Greenwood, who I then just slap as my third sub every single week. I don't need to have an 8th attacker. I've got my midfield 5 and I've got Isak and Haaland. So I don't actually need that 8th attacker for the remainder of the season. And I've actually got a really strong defense. So I can either play a 3-5-2 or a 4-4-2 every single week. So if I decide that I want Bruno back in, which I kind of do because his data's good, playing in the 10, he should have got more points in game week 33. I quite like the idea of getting McAllister to Bruno, but that is another hit. And again, I might be taking out McAllister playing in the 10 role, which would be, I think, in my opinion, a terrible decision. The fourth option is doing McAllister to March for free. Again, McAllister to March, just because we know March will continue to start in an attacking role. We don't know that that's the case for McAllister. And because Brighton still have 3 remaining doubles in 34, 36 and 37, you are going to want 3 Brighton assets. So again, McAllister to March might just sort me out with no headaches for the remainder of the season. I've got 3 Brighton assets that will start pretty much every week, and I know will play in the positions that I know they'll play in every week as well. I think that's pretty much it. I guess the other option, which I've looked at, but I'm not a massive fan of, is Watkins to Jota and then benching Isak. The reason I'm not a massive fan of that is I don't necessarily think or believe that Jota will start both in 34. And then for the remainder of the season, I'm not confident he starts every game either. And also, it means that I have to bench Isak. Do I think that Jota against Tottenham at home and Fulham at home will outscore Isak against Southampton at home? Yes, if Jota starts both. If he doesn't, I kind of might back Isak to outscore him. So... And obviously that will then give me issues moving forward, benching headaches every single week too. So I feel like the most sensible things to do would be either to roll, do a goalkeeper transfer, or make the switch for Bruno. But I do have the options elsewhere to move around and potentially aim for Jota as well. So let me know down below in the comments, what would you do with my team? I guess it is tempting to roll. I suppose just finally, before I move on, with rolling, the issue with rolling is I don't need a transfer in 35 and I don't need a transfer in 36. I've currently got triple Newcastle. I've got triple Brighton. They are the ones that double in 36. And the team already, I have benching headaches in game week 35. So I don't need a transfer in 35. I don't need one in 36. There's no point me rolling forward to 35 with 2 free transfers when I don't need one for the next 2 weeks after that as well. So I feel like I might as well make a move of some kind. So if I decide not to move for Bruno, unfortunately, I know it's going to upset a lot of people. It's probably going to end up being Kepa to Ederson. But like I said, let me know down below in the comments what you would do with this team. So guys, there you have it. That is my Game Week 34 team selection. Tight turnaround once again, Saturday morning deadline. If you did enjoy today's video, please do drop a like. Let's aim for 2,000 likes on this video. Drop a comment down below to feed those algorithm gods. Make sure to subscribe as well. We are on the road to 70,000 subscribers. But until next time, thank you very much for watching. Cheers. Bye-bye.